Sound good? Everybody hear me over there? Welcome. Is everybody doing okay this morning? Weathered the storm a little bit last few days. I'm thankful to be here myself. 2 inches? That's pretty good. We'll take that. I don't know. I don't have a rain gauge at my house. I have a lot of elevation, so everything runs down to the creek bottom, down to the pond. So it's exactly. It doesn't go into the house, so that's all I care about. I'm going to need a few volunteers today to help read, if we can. Anybody want to raise their hands? I got 5 little sheets here with some verses on it from Proverbs. Anybody want to help out? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Which one you want? 3. There you go. Which one you want? 2. There you go. Perfect. How about 4? I'll give you the first one. Yeah, I got it wrote down. Let me get over here. Thank you, sir. Let's have a quick prayer real quick before I get started. I'm going to need a little help from God on this one, so let's go ahead and pray if you don't mind. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for this beautiful day that we have to come together as a church and worship together and praise your holy name. Please be with us as we go throughout the rest of this week. And most of all, I pray that you help us to restrain our speech. I hope that we can also speak with humility, speak with wisdom, and also speak with grace whenever we deal with the world and everyone in it. And most of all, thank you for letting your son die on the cross for our sins. And it's in his name that we pray. Amen. So today, I'm going to move this down a little bit. Today, I want to talk, we're still in Proverbs, of course, and I have a question for you. Do our words matter? Do you think our words matter? I hear a lot of yeses. Reading in Proverbs, it's hard for me to dial it in on one thing because I'll start reading and I'm like, oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. And I'll just start wanting to, there's so much information and it's hard for me to get focused on one thing. But one of the things from Proverbs when I read that it keeps going back to the words that we say. Our speech is very, very important. And especially wise speech is very important. So today what I want to do is we're going to go over basically do our words matter and why they matter. And I think it even goes into your thoughts. The thoughts that you have matter. I think they matter more than the words you say because you really got to think it first before you can say it. And since God knows our thoughts and we know that we're judged on our thoughts, then I think our thoughts are very, very, very important, So, but we do, since I asked the question, do our words matter? Everybody said, yes, they do. And one of the things that we learn is when we speak the word, or when we speak words, we're either building people up or we're breaking people down. Are our words full of life or are they full of death? And I think in the world today, it's very easy to have words that are not what you want, or to say words that maybe doesn't come out exactly like you mean it, or a lot of times it's the tone of voice that we use when we say something. I know as being a father with kids, I can speak harshly to my kids, and I can get a crying reaction 100% of the time. If I come at them with anger, or if I speak to them in a tone that is not loving, they feel it, and their energy feels it. So one of my goals as a father is to speak clearly to my kids, and also to speak to them in a way that is nurturing and loving, but also without anger. And I think that when you're angry, I think the devil is your daddy. It says, so if you're acting out of anger on a daily basis, well, Satan is your father, pretty much. So, because you can't be speaking life and love when you're angry. Impossible. So they do not mix. And so what I want to do on this, first, so we're going to read some verses. We're primarily going to be between chapters 15. We're going to pick out several verses in Proverbs 15. And I've got 5 volunteers that are going to read some verses for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to start out with who's got number 1. And I'm going to, for those that are listening online, the first set of verses that we're going to read are chapters 18, verse 21, and chapter 12, verse 18. And so who's got number 1 for me? If you're ready, are you ready you got number 1 on the sheet? Who's got Proverbs 18, 21? You got it? Okay. Did I not number it? Okay, sorry. Yeah, 18, 21, and then right after that, read 12, 18.
The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing.
I'm going to read that again. So he said, death and life are in the power of the tongue. This is my version. I'm reading out a New King James Version. And those who love it will eat its fruit. So death and life are in the power of the tongue. So we know one thing, that the tongue is very powerful, right? So every word that we say has power to it. And especially when we're speaking with other people, in the world, and even our Christian brothers and sisters, how we speak to them, we should really understand how powerful our words are, how powerful they can be. And I think it's very important for us to focus on that and know that every word that we speak should have purpose, for who we're speaking to, and it needs a time and a place and a season. It's to me, like, choosing the right word is the best thing you can do. And as we read on a little bit further, we'll see some other examples of that. So you have 12 verse 18. And the tongues of the wise bring healing, right? So one of the versions I read brings health. So our words bring health to people. And as Christians, like, what better thing can you do, than to bring health to someone's life? One of the classes I taught, the young adults class a while back, it might have been the older adults, or I can't remember which one it was, but we had talked about this, and I think it was, if I remember right, one of the things I try not to say, and one of the things I hear a lot is, I'm sick. A lot of people say, I am sick. I'm not feeling well, and I don't like to say that. I don't ever want to say I am sick, because I think the words I am are the most powerful words you can use on a daily basis. When you were saying I am, where do we know that from? Who is I am? God, right? The Father, Jehovah. He is the great I am, the beginning and the end, right? So when we say I am something, we are taking that on, and we read in Proverbs that we actually take it down into our gut, into our deepest parts of our soul when we say something. So I challenge you that if you're not feeling well in the future, instead of saying I am sick today, say I am healing. Why not invite the words, healing words, into your body, into your mind? And because if you're taking on that I am sick, then you are taking on ownership of that sickness, right? And so since we know that our words are so powerful, we also know that they cut like a sword, right? A two-edged sword. we see. So words are so powerful that they can build you up or break you down. So when you're thinking these words or thinking just at all, it's very important to think healthy things. You know, if you want to be healthy, you can't be healthy by thinking I'm sick all day, right? If you're thinking I'm sick, I'm tired, what do we hear most of all when people say I am something? What do we hear? I'm sick and tired, right? How many times have you heard that in a day? I mean, I don't know anybody that says, man, I've got so much energy. God, do you need some energy? Let me give you some of my energy because I got so much energy. I've never heard anybody say that, but I hear I am sick and I am tired more often than I hear anything else. So, that being said, Solomon he's telling us to choose our words very carefully. And also how we think I think what we think about is what we're telling God we want in our life. So if we think about sickness and being unhealthy, or, I look in the mirror, oh, I am fat, or I am whatever, I'm short, whatever it is, you're going to get exactly what you think about. I mean, that's our direct connection to God. When we think something, we are speaking to Him, and we're telling Him what we want out of life, right? And so if we are thinking these negative things, or these hurtful things, or these angry things, then guess what we're going to get back? We're going to get all those things. So I challenge you again to, whenever you think something or say something, especially any kind of an I am statement, I think is very, very important to make sure that it lines up with life-giving words or healthy words. We know that a wise man, his words are healthy to those people. So anyone around, if we want to bring health and life to people, we have to choose the right words and how we say it to people. Who has number 2 for us? Who's got number 2? So that was chapter 10, verse 19 through 21. And in my version, it says, in the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, and he who restrains his lips is wise. And so we don't always have to say something, right? A lot of times it's better to remain quiet and be perceived as wise than to, speak and remove all doubt, is one of the sayings that we hear. My physics teacher in high school and basketball coach, Coach Thompson, he had a sign in his room that said, silence is golden, get rich. And that saying stuck with me for still to this day at 46 years old. So I remember it. I don't remember much else from his class, but I remember that saying. But it is a wise saying, and a lot of times in today's world, it feels like everybody's got an opinion, and everybody, when it comes to social media, wants to tell you their opinion, and they want to show you what they're doing, what they're eating, what their thoughts are. But it's not always, I don't think everybody needs to know what we're thinking all the time. Especially if you're not thinking good things. If you're thinking things that are, not life-giving, right? If you're thinking things that are going to bring people down, you might want to hold that in. But we see there that, he who restrains his lips is wise. It says the tongue of the righteous is choice silver. So, we have our tongue, our mouths, our lips, our words are like fine metals. That's as silver and gold. Like, who doesn't want a bunch of silver and gold? I like silver and gold myself. I don't love it and, idolize it, but I enjoy it. I enjoy having it in my hands, and I'm an old school silver guy, so I collect silver, I collect gold, and I just like holding it. I don't want the paper version of it and the stock. I don't want any of that stuff. I want the real deal. I like to hold the real thing. So, but, saying that righteous, the tongue of a righteous is choice silver. That means that it's the best of the best. And there's no better silver than choice silver, because you're getting the best of what's out there. What's our next verses you got here? We have, I think it's chapter 17, 27 through 28. Even fools are counted wise. It's the only time we read anything good in Proverbs about a fool, and it's just when they shut up. When they don't say a word and they keep their mouth shut, they are perceived wise, right? And it says that he who shuts his lips is considered perceptive, is the version that I have. What does your version say? The end of 28? Okay, is even tempered, but we, even a fool is considered wise when they keep their mouth shut. So how many times do we have an opportunity to keep our mouth shut that we don't? My wife was talking about a little, this is kind of what they do with kids when they teach them that their words are important. They take a tube of toothpaste and they squirt it all out and they tell them, okay, now get all the toothpaste back in the tube. It's kind of like your words, the words you choose to use. Once you put them out there, it's hard to get them back. And I don't know how many times I've ate my words over my life. I know it's more than I can count, and I'm sure there's somebody out there counting for me and keeping up, but it's not me. It'd be too hard for me to keep up with those times that I put my foot in my mouth or said something I shouldn't have said. But we know that by being silent, by restraining, by waiting. I told you a few weeks ago that whenever I got off social media for a period of time during COVID, it was because I needed to listen. I realized that things that I thought, if I would have said them, I would have offended someone that I loved or loved me. And so that was a sure tell sign that I needed to step back, be quiet, and listen and learn. And I don't think we can really be wise without learning how to listen. We can't be a good communicator without learning how to listen. We have to wait and hear, before we give an answer. And then the last verse, I think you have 29:11, is that correct? It said, a fool, my version says, a fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back. So fools are very wordy and they have plenty to say. And a wise man, again, restrains what they have to say. You wait, you pause, and you decide if it's worth saying. So that's one of the prerequisites of being a wise person is not talking, and listening. Let's go on to our third group of verses. So this is in chapter 15. I have verses 1, 4, 23, and 28. Who's number 3 for me right here? Yeah, let's read 1 and 4 first, and then I'll come back to you.
A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit.
A soft answer turns away wrath, right? So, and I know this for sure because I used to argue a lot, and I used to get in debates with people. I could debate with anybody. I could debate with that wall or that stained glass if I want to. I have no problem having communication with that, and I could go back and forth, But whenever someone's angry, one of the easiest ways to get them to not be angry is to speak softly. Like if someone's yelling at you and they're irate and they're getting mad, and then when you speak to them at a soft tone, like they have to come down to your level. They will not keep yelling and arguing. They can't because they're like, why isn't this person giving me like energy back? Like, why aren't they, embracing, let's go after it. When you're silent or when you are soft spoken, and I believe that's how God speaks to us when we hear those soft voices, that little, conscious as some people call it. When you hear that little voice, I think that's God speaking to us. And he doesn't yell at us. It's not a, hey, you're going the wrong way. It's, hey, you might not want to go that way. It's more of that kind of speech that we get back from God. Or that's how he speaks to maybe I'm just hard of hearing or something, but that's how he speaks to me. And then in verse 4, it says, my version has, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. So a wholesome tongue is a tree of life. To me, that's as good as it gets. Like when you speak out of purity and you speak out of love and light and abundance, a tree of life is ever growing. Its branches are all life. It's just, encompasses, it gives shade to us. I love trees. That's why I bought a property with 300 plus trees on it. When I get in the midst of those trees and the wind runs through it, I feel like I'm at the ocean. It's amazing. But I'm a tree person, so I don't know if I'm a tree hugger or what, but I definitely love my trees, and I love everything that comes along with them. But we have a lot of examples of trees in the Bible, and then trees of life, and how much they give to us. But trees of life have fruit, right? So they bear fruit, and fruit is what we're all searching for. That's all what we love. But when it comes to the fruits of the Spirit, that's as good as it gets. So we want to be trees of life, but trees of the fruits of the Spirit, right? We want to be giving out as much spiritual fruit as we can to everyone around, is how I read that. Go on to verses 23 and 28, please.
A person finds joy in giving and apt reply, and others with a kind word. The heart of the righteous waits its answer, but the mouth of the wicked gushes evil.
In verse 23, my version says, a man has joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good it is. So what does that mean? A word spoken in due season. Does anyone have an idea of what Solomon's saying there? Right time? Yeah. Saying the right thing at the right time, right? And so that's, I think that's one of the, when you can say the right word at the right time, in the right way, that's as good as it gets. You can't get any better when it comes to communication. So it really does matter how you say it. If you're saying it with the wrong tone, and you're like I kind of look at it when I deal with my kids. Whenever I've got a little argument, like this morning I had a little pinching fest because of wearing green for St. Patty's Day. So before y'all see I don't have any green on. I got the socks with some green dots, so don't come a pinching, or you'll get two. So, but my little daughters, my 4-year-old and 8-year-old, they were kind of going at it this morning. My 8-year-old went and pinched my 4-year-old, and she had all green on. And I was like, oh, you get to pinch her twice, So she went to go do that. Well, I shouldn't have done that. All of a sudden I got crying kids here, and they're like, did you pinch her? And she's like, yes, I did. And then all of a sudden they're like, why are you crying? You didn't, no reason to cry, but because of how we said it to them, and I know my wife came and she goes, Margo, did you do it? And then all of a sudden breakdown, so of course Livy, I had to comfort her a little bit, but it's how I talk to her, the words I use and how I say it. The tone of your voice is, I think, the most important tool that we have in communication. When you can mix enthusiasm in your speech, when you talk to someone, you can actually inspire them. And who loves to be inspired? I do. Nobody else? Man, I'm the only one here that loves to be inspired. So, okay, hopefully someone at home loves to be inspired. Thank you in the back. But I love to be inspired, and I love to inspire people. So the words that I choose, like as an artist, I get a lot of other young artists that come to me wanting advice, and they're wanting something. They're searching to do what I do for a living. And so I had a mentor that he told me I would never be an artist. He told me I could never learn color. It wasn't one of my God-given gifts. And so he told me all the negative things. Well, he didn't know me and my God very well at that time. So you don't know how big my God is. But also at that time, I had heard my whole life all the things that I could not do and what wasn't possible. And so I made that shift to say, I don't have to believe him. That's just his one opinion. But I know that me and God on my side, And that's really just faith, right? Just believing you can do something. When you got God on your side, you got faith. So you believe that whatever's going to happen in the future can happen. But if you have fear, you know it can't. So I had another mentor that he saw me paint a picture of my father on Father's Day, and it was him fishing, and I did it in a few hours, and a pretty good size painting, about 30 by 40. And this one mentor came in, Corky, he said, "Wow, Tanner," he goes, "that's amazing." He's like, "You could be the best of all of us." And so guess who I chose to listen to? I listened to the man that gave me words that inspired me to be great. Not the one that said, "Hey, I've already made my mind up about you. You can't do this because I'm special." God made me super special. So special that I'm the best. I don't believe that. I'm only best when God's on my side. When I'm doing things that are lined up with His way, His light, His speech, His commandments, that's when I'm at my best. Not any other time. Anytime I'm doing it by myself, I'm at my worst, I believe. Because if I don't have the faith going along with it, what's the point? You're just kind of walking on a treadmill going nowhere. But those words do matter, and it all depends on who you listen to. So I think it's very important to listen to the right people, and especially people that inspire. You want people in your life that inspire you to do great, inspire you to be Christ-like, and that's why we're all here, right? We are coming here to get inspiration, right? To live in spirit in the world. That's why if you're not coming here for inspiration, what are you here for? To me, if we're not getting inspired and lifted up by our brothers and sisters in Christ, then why are we here? So every word that we choose to use to our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ should be an inspirational message in some way, shape, or form. No gossip, no slander, none of that, because it doesn't bring life. So when we're thinking about someone like, "I love you just the way you are. I love you just the way you are. I love you just the way you are. You're perfect." Like when we think things, we need to say those things, And why not build people up with the words you use? To me, that's our whole duty. Like if we can't inspire people by the words we use, why are we speaking? Why are we even talking? What's the point? If you're not doing those things, then we know where you're coming from. Right? You're coming from the other side of life, the other side of the world, Satan's domain. He loves slander. He loves gossip. Gossip is his favorite form of communication, probably right after sarcasm. And I think sarcasm is probably one of the lowest forms of communication you can have. And I was a master at sarcasm growing up. Like every chance I had to be sarcastic, I was sarcastic. And then I learned from my art mentor that, Tanner, that is one of the lowest forms of communication. And I was like, you're right. He wasn't a member of the church, but he knew enough to teach me that. And then I was very careful about the words that I say and how I say them. Let's go on to 4. Who's got number 4 for me? Now, these are my favorites. These verses you're about to read. He's going to read 25 verses 11 and 15, and chapter 16, verse 24. But these two verses, or these set of verses, speak to me. He's speaking my language at this point. Go ahead and read it for us.
Verse 11, "The word that is spoken is like apples of gold and settings of silver." And then verse 15, "By long forbearance the ruler is persuaded, and a gentle tongue breaks them all."
A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold. So what does he mean by fitly spoken? Is that what your version says?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody else have another word for fitly? That's chapter 25, verses 11. Okay? So fitly spoken, does that mean it's perfect? Right? When I think of fitly, I think about when I was a kid and I had the shapes and I had the box that had a triangle, a star, a circle, a square. Every time I tried to put that square in that circle, guess what? It didn't work, right? So our words are the same way. We got to put them in there at the right time, right? So it says that words spoken, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. So as an artist, I relate with this because when I think of a craftsman, I think of apples of gold. I've never seen an apple of gold, but that would be amazing. I think my biggest gold nugget's about like this, and it's nowhere near the shape of an apple. But it's just, that's a thing of beauty to me. I mean, I could just imagine a tree of gold apples. Like, how amazing would that be to see something like that? And then Solomon adds on top of it in settings of silver. So it's like gold and silver mixed in together, but imagine the beauty of that. So it shows that our words, the words we choose, can be very, very beautiful and perfect, and fine. And so it's important to say it at the right time, right? It's like you got to put that word in there just at the right time if you want it to be wise and perceived wise, and you want it to be, as beautiful as this that we read in Solomon here. He says, like an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise rebuker to an obedient ear, right? So we have to have an obedient ear too, correct? If we're going to speak to people and put the right word in the right time, in the right season, say it in the right way, it doesn't matter if they're not obedient, if they're not ready to hear it. We're just, what does it say? We're casting our pearls before the swine. Would that be kind of the same thing? If you're speaking to an audience that's not listening or not ready to hear, you might as well save those words and hold them back, right? And then 16:24.
Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul, and health to the bones.
Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. Again, we get the health part there, right? So the words that we use, if we're using pleasant words in our speech, then we are bringing health to other people. We're making their bones healthy, is what Solomon tells us. But we also learned earlier that we're bringing life. We're bringing health by using the right words and by using powerful, gracious, loving words are the easiest way to get there, in my opinion. Let's go on to, who's got number 5? Our last one. Okay, what verses are you reading there?
18, 13, and 22, 17.
So chapter 18, verse 13, and then 22. Okay, 17 through 18.
18, 13. If one gives an answer before he hears, it listens to all your shame.
So he who answers a matter before he hears it, this is folly and shame to him. How many people have done, how many times on a daily basis are you talking to somebody and then they cut you off and they just keep on rambling, they keep on talking? Do y'all ever have that happen? I know I do it, and I try not to do it. So when I'm speaking with somebody, I actually have to make myself wait before I say something, but I have to practice and train because I feel like all the time I got to put a word in, I got to get something in, and you want to let people get it out of their mouth before you're out rambling something else. So, he tells us here that don't answer a matter before you hear the question. Don't give the answer before you hear the question. And again, he's telling us to listen, right? We got to listen first before we can give any kind of answer. So, and then our next verse.
22, 17 through 18. Incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your heart to my knowledge. For it will be pleasant if you keep them within you. If all of them are ready, my lips.
What does he say first to do with our ears?
Incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your heart to my knowledge. For it will be pleasant if you keep them within you, if all of them are ready on your lips.
So what does he mean by incline your ears? Does anybody have an idea on that one? Do what? Be ready to listen. Okay. Ken?
I would figure it'd be the opposite of recline.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of, laying back, incline would be draw near.
okay? When I think of an incline, I think of like the incline bench press. You know, coaches, y'all get this. So you're facing up. Like, I can't go incline without looking up to God. The only way you can incline is if you're going to incline your ears, you're putting back and you're listening, you're looking up. And to me, that's where I'm looking for my answers. So when I hear the incline your ear, it's, what is God telling me? That's what I hear out of this, or what I see. But I think it's definitely the opposite of reclining, sitting back, right? Or getting down. You know, I think the only way to hear is to get your ears out, get them open, and to listen. And again, we're listening for that soft voice, right? That God speaks to us so gently and so gracefully. Ken, do you have something else?
Well, yeah, I wanted to go back to the second part of what James, the second verse that James had.
Okay.
Which was that 16, James?
Yes, sir.
So if you'll allow, just let James read that again, and then I'm going to go back with something that I feel like ties in.
Perfect.
16:24. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones.
Psalm 19:7 says, "The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making life simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart." The rules of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired than they than gold, even fine gold, sweeter than the honey and drippings of the honeycomb.
And that was his daddy that said that, right?
Right.
Yep. So if Solomon was the wisest man, who'd he get it from? He got it from God, but I mean, David was pretty wise himself, correct? But yeah, it's sweetness to the soul, right? So the words we use are sweet like honey, honeycomb, which is even sweeter than honey, right? That's as sweet as it gets.
I think there's this connection between, you know, we talk about the fear of the Lord as the beginning of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and so I see that connection between God's law and God's desire for us, and wisdom is just the word that we use to describe our understanding of that. I think sometimes the wise, you know, because you get to the New Testament and the wise, the people that are wise, I put that in quotation mark, the people that think they're wise. Somebody like, you know, like the guy that you said was you'll never do this because you're not as good as I am. Sometimes in our culture, when we think wise doesn't have the same positive energy, right? Because sometimes we think ourselves wise rather than having the wisdom of God.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times when we think ourselves wise, that's what a fool thinks he's wise, right? We know foolish people think they're wise and they're right all the time, you know, so, and they're not even close to it. And that goes back to like the last week when I talked about the prerequisites of wisdom, correct? So it was the ignorance is the absence of truth. Knowledge is the accumulation of that truth. Understanding is the assimilation of that truth. And then wisdom is applying that truth, right? And then if we don't apply the wisdom that we've learned or God's words, then what are we? We're fools, right? And then we're ignorant. We start back over and we're ignorant again. And it has to be at the ready, right? It needs to already be here. We already have to know it in order for us to speak it. Correct? Trust in the Lord, right? Exactly, good point. I do want to read this one verse real quick because I feel like this is the crowd for it. I see a lot of crowns in this room, and y'all may not understand me when I say that, but it says, the silver-haired head is a crown of glory. And I didn't say anything about a silver beard, but I see some crowns of glory in here, and I'm very thankful for it because guess what? I know you're wise beyond your years. And I believe that the silver hair comes wisdom, or that's what I tell myself because I got Santa beard pretty quick and pretty early on. So everybody's like, man, you sure did age a lot. And I said, well, this is wisdom. Like I don't know any other way to explain it other than this is just showing that I have gained some wisdom. And I'm not fully there yet. I'm not full gray or full silver. I'm getting there. If I let the light hit it just right, I got plenty of silver hair growing into my crown there. So, well, one of the last things I want to talk about is, so how are our words going to be blessed? Like, how do we choose words that are blessings to others? David? And what does he say in verse 36? I have this on my notes right here, so you brought out 37. Can anybody read Matthew 12:36 for me? And what does it tell us about our words? Matthew 12:36. I think I'm going to have to hear that again, right? It says every idle word, right? Every careless word, I think is another. But on the day of judgment, we're going to have to give an account of every word that we've ever spoken. Every single word, every foolish word, hopefully, now that we've had this lesson, we're not going to use foolish words anymore, right? We're not going to use words that provoke death or sickness in people. We want to use words that are life-giving, correct? And especially if every word that comes out of our mouth is going to come back, hopefully not to haunt us on Judgment Day. Hopefully he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Thank you for choosing the right words and bringing more people to me. Hopefully he's not saying, man, Tanner, God, why didn't you just shut your mouth? Why did you choose to say it like that? You know better. I taught you better. You have all this knowledge, you have all these instructions that I've given you, but you haven't used them. So you've remained a fool because you didn't use those words. So in 36, it's just every word. But in the beginning was what? The Word. And the Word was with God, right? And the Word is for God. Do I have that right? So we know that words are important. And I think it's even as important to write them down. Like I know whenever I have goals, I'm one of those that I set goals every year. I have 5-year goals, 10-year goals, but I have to write down my goals. And I believe that once you write it down, once you write the words down, you commit them to memory a lot easier, but also it gives you a record to go back to, but it makes it very powerful. I still haven't gotten through all of my notes. I think this is as I've been studying, you can see here, I didn't get to all this the last time, and I didn't get to all that the time before that, but I am getting through some of this. I will say that this one we got through more than I have in the past of my notes. We know it's important to listen before we speak, correct? And then we need to choose the right word at the right time, in the right season, but most importantly, say it in the right way. If you can say it with a smile on your face, I guarantee you it will come across better. Like seeing someone smile when they talk, it makes you want to smile. I mean, I'm already seeing smiles just by me trying to smile. I'm seeing it just by doing that. So thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. And I'm going to say one quick little prayer, and we will get out of here. Lord, thank you for this day that we have to come together. Help us be wise in our speech. Help us to bring light and life to all those around us. Help us to spread your love and choose the right words to say in the right season and in the right way mostly. And help us to be more like Christ in every facet of our life. And it's in his name that we pray. Amen.